Good morning, and we would want to say good morning to all our listeners by way of radio, other listeners and viewers who are joining us by means of the other social media platforms. And we would want to welcome all this morning to our press conference, primarily as we celebrate entrepreneurs, their activities as a part of the celebration of the Global Entrepreneurship Week. That's an annual celebration. And so we in the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship would take the opportunity to recognize and celebrate entrepreneurs for their hard work, their activities in developing the small and medium enterprise sector and providing services to our country, our federation, as we continue to develop our economic base through entrepreneurship. This morning, we are going to hear from our minister, of course, the Honorable Samal Duggins, and we have at the head table with us as well our permanent secretary, Ms. Delrine Taylor. My name is Philip Brown, and at this point, I would want to allow our permanent secretary to make some brief remarks. Again, I would say thank you, welcome to all, and of course, our little studio audience as well. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Delrine Taylor, Permanent Secretary, newly appointed Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Small Businesses and Entrepreneurship. And as Mr. Philip just mentioned, we are currently celebrating Global Entrepreneurial Week, and this is one of our activities we have slated on the week, as we felt it was important to engage the general public as to our plans forward for the ministry and what we have planned for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Later this evening, we'll have a cannabis panel discussion where we would have Honorable Garth Wilkin, Dr. Garfield Alexander, Stuart Laplace, Everton Delaney, Linvi Binji Nats, and Ras Ayer. And that will be live at ZIZ at 8:30 this evening, where you would get some more information on the whole cannabis adventure that's to come in the ministry. On the 17th, which is Thursday, tomorrow, we'll also have a agro-business conference at the Agricultural Conference Room, where we'll be engaging our agriculture entrepreneurs and areas where we can help to improve and enhance their businesses. And the general public is welcome to ask questions and get answers to those questions. And on Friday, to culminate the whole week, we'll have a business expo in the square where different businesses, small businesses, would get the chance to display what they have to offer to the general public. And that would start at 12 p.m. and finish at 7. So I'm inviting all to come out on the 18th to the Independence Square to have a look at what our entrepreneurs and small businesses has to offer and lend some support to them. And it would be an exciting one, as we have quite a large number of small businesses with different businesses, whether it's be food, cosmetics, the whole works. So I'm inviting all to be present there on Friday. I'll now ask Honorable Samal Duggins, the Minister for Small Business and Entrepreneur, to give some brief words and about what's to come for the Ministry for Small Business.
Good morning, and good morning to all. I am extremely delighted to be sitting amongst this panel this morning, celebrating entrepreneurs and the work that they do. And as I say that, I should say the work that we do. Because what is even more delighting for me is that all of my life and my development has been around entrepreneurship. And so to be spearheading the movement, I am extremely honored. But I take that honor as a serious commitment. And today, as we celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week, that commitment stands at the forefront. And as I was reflecting on what do I say today, I really went back to the journey in getting here. And when I say that, I'm looking at, one, us celebrating our 100 days in office, and also our journey getting into office. And on that journey, there were commitments made. And we committed a few things in empowering our entrepreneurs, because we recognize that entrepreneurs really are the lifeline and the veins and blood and everything that allows for our societies to survive and our economy to thrive. We would be nothing if it weren't for our small and medium-sized businesses. They stimulate the economy. They are the ones who have families that they take care of. And so these businesses really mean a lot if we are to see St. Kitts and Nevis move in the direction that we plan. And so as I reflected on our journey and the commitments made, I also looked to the future. And what does that future reflect for me? It is a future where all entrepreneurs have a space to thrive, where a small business of today becomes a big business of tomorrow. And not a society where small businesses stay small businesses forever. Because if we are truly talking about growth, then we must recognize that growth means getting bigger, getting better, becoming more efficient, expanding our wings, not just within our jurisdiction. Why can't we have a multinational company that was started here in St. Kitts and developed throughout the region and expand across the world? What is stopping us from doing that? And in my vision, absolutely nothing but time. And I say that because the efforts that we are putting in now should certainly yield such fruits. And that's why when we committed duty-free on tools of trade, or concessions on tools of trade, I thought, how can we achieve that? And within our first 100 days, after analyzing the current landscape, we recognized that there were a number of entities designed to assist small businesses. But these entities were all tucked within their own different departments, not given the freedom of space and sufficient support to really execute on their mandate. We had the wonderful work being done by SBDC. And SBDC has been doing wonderful work for a while. But tucked away somewhere within trade and commerce, there just wasn't enough room for them to spread their wings and really cover the entire landscape in the way they ought to. And then you had within the Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment, and Talent Development, entrepreneurship. And again, somewhere tucked within there were efforts being made to empower entrepreneurs. But again, just not enough room and support to spread and work efficiently and effectively. So in analyzing that, our government brought it all together. And all of these departments now sit into a ministry known as Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development. We are now the focus of all of these departments become one singular focus, hand in hand walking now. No more one over on the left and one on the right. Everybody is now hand in hand walking together, delivering for our entrepreneurs. And I'm pleased to say that we are already at work offering duty concessions for approved businesses and tools of trade. Commitment made, commitment kept. Starting in a few weeks, we are also committed to provide soft loans for our entrepreneurs at low interest. We have now partnered with the Development Bank to offer loans to entrepreneurs, especially coming out of a post-COVID environment. And in a few weeks, as we gear up for the best carnival season this country has ever seen, we are now offering loans to persons who want to participate in being entrepreneurs, benefiting off of the activities of the season, and the development of this tourism season again, predicted to be one of the better ones we've seen as well. And coming out of the pandemic, we recognize that money has been short for a lot of our entrepreneurs, and some would have had challenges to where they would have ceased to exist operation. But here we say, commitment made, commitment kept. And in about 2 weeks, we will be offering low interest loans to our entrepreneurs across the Federation. And for me, this means a lot. Because as we revive and regenerate the entrepreneurial environment in this country, I recognize that it will take capital injection. And our government has committed themselves to that. But beyond capital injection, it will take training. And again, the ministry has developed on its mandate to offer training to over 1,000 entrepreneurs across the Federation. So no longer will our entrepreneurs operate in an environment where they are not sufficiently trained or advised as to the best means of accessing what is there to be accessed. And again, the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship is at the forefront, training our people, our entrepreneurs, as to best practices around the world. We also offered our expertise in marketing, because another challenge that our entrepreneurs face is getting the word out on the wonderful goods and services that they provide. And this is not just on the local front, although very important, but on the regional and international front as well. And so I'm pleased to say that again, the ministry is charting the course and leading the way in promoting our businesses. And we have a number of initiatives that we are engaging in to do just that. And I am pleased and proud to say that we have businesses around the world, as far east as Taiwan, throughout the Caribbean, frameworks being developed to put goods from our own local businesses on the shelves of supermarkets and other entities globally. And I am proud to be at the forefront of such a movement. Commitment made, commitment kept. And as we go on into the new fiscal, and as we prepare and work through our budget, I am happy to note that once approved, we will be able to offer grants to our small businesses. We'll be able to expand on the loans offered to our small businesses. And we've had the private sector come in involved, where a number of banking institutions are jumping on board to offer low interest loans as well. So I think 2023 and beyond will be seen as glorious years for the small business sector in this country. And again, as your minister, I am delighted to be at the forefront, charting the course to make St. Kitts and Nevis the gem, the beacon as far as small business development. Thank you, and I look forward to any questions and any further comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And I think all of us are equally excited looking forward as we look at our current realities. And, you know, the minister would have mentioned a couple of things. Some words stuck with me immediately. Movement. And he referenced our activities and what we would want to do as a movement. That is instructive. The growth and development that ought to occur over the next 12 to 24 months within the micro, small, and medium enterprise sector, of course, would be seen as phenomenal. And those things are really only achieved based on approach. When you approach what you're doing as a movement, shaping the landscape. And so, you know, I would really want to applaud the minister, and I know that he is prepared for the questions. The other thing he mentioned is empowering entrepreneurs. That, again, it speaks wonders in terms of the vision that we see, the empowerment of people, of our people. And our minister would want to ensure that this becomes a reality. Empowerment would lead to getting goods and services out there. And as we celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week, that is in fact what we would want to do. Internationalize our entrepreneurs, reach markets. Of course, the funding and the financing and the alignment, so to speak, of resources that would have been scattered. All of those things are, in fact, part of the vision of this minister to ensure that we provide the best possible ecosystem for our entrepreneurs. There would have been support entities prior to, and so, as the minister would have aptly put it, it is a matter of aligning the resources, the networking among these agencies, and literally creating a one-stop shop, which we have talked about so often, but ensuring that it happens, not necessarily in a building, but that the services and the resources are aligned in such a way that our entrepreneurs can have the best possible benefits. Of course, he's alluding to training, because I think that is also one of the issues. Training or financing without training, let me put it this way. Financing without the necessary assistance can put entrepreneurs in more trouble than before they actually got the financing. And so we think that that is a winning combination, financing and the training for development. So with those brief words from me, and you would have heard quite a bit from the minister, we are now ready and open to entertain your questions, whatever they may be, as long as we can provide you with the answers immediately. Where we can't, we will certainly tell you. We'll get right back with it. But it's now time for the questions and the concerns, and we are all here.
Morning, Andre, Nevis, to the Minister. We spoke about the that the development bank would be provided for small businesses. How's the application process? Is this that the businesses have to go through directly to development bank, or do they come through the ministry and then channel through the development bank? The other question in relation to what you spoke about, and also what was addressed about training, will this take the form of mentorship? Because a lot of small businesses do need that support, that mentorship support. The training is good, but having that mentorship to guide them, is also more valuable. So will the training take the form of mentorship, or will mentorship be offered separately? And thirdly, and I know you're also the agriculture minister, farmers and agriculture entrepreneurs tend to have a lot of challenges getting loans and getting financing, and even insurance sometimes for their produce, in the event of natural disasters. How will the small business ministry support agriculture entrepreneurs as well in that regard?
Thank you, Mr. Huey, for your questions. Now, if we start with the partnership with ourselves and the development bank, the way this partnership is designed is to create a proper synergy that whether you go through the bank or you come through the offices of SBDC, it will be the same process. So persons are allowed to venture in any way they so desire. But that one process will see you being able to, one, have your businesses approved, because the loans are given to approved small businesses, and then apply for the loan and develop your business plan, and then be able to go through the process of acquiring the loan. But that could be done whether you walk into the development bank or you walk into the office of the small business ministry. So either or. And we have created that synergy so that persons have the options and make it as easy and as accessible for our entrepreneurs as we can possibly make it. So I hope that answers that first question. Your second question was in regards to training. Now, what we want to offer a startup training and then say you're on your own. Because again, we recognize that this has to be a continuous support program. And so we've been discussing means and mechanisms where we can provide a continuous support of entrepreneurs. And there's always alignment. In fact, we do have a chat where our entrepreneurs are all engaged and where they could ask questions and share amongst themselves and peers information. But from our end, we will also have that periodic check-in and that regular service, as well as I mentioned, marketing. What we are doing now is a collaboration between what had been known as MOENT and SBDC and the whole Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, utilizing the cultural services, the entertainment services to propel small business and marketing. Because what markets more effectively than entertainment? And when you merge business and entertainment together, it's a powerful mix. So again, I hope I would have answered in terms of your question on training. But addressing your third question, I want to start by referencing something that our permanent secretary would have highlighted. There's an entire session in our week. Tomorrow evening at the Agricultural Conference Room, dedicated specifically for agricultural-based entrepreneurs. So you see, we recognize the challenges, and we are doing everything in our power to address those challenges. And we are leaving no one behind. We are spreading out our wings to embrace everyone and taking everyone forward on this transformational journey, because my commitment here is that St. Kitts and Nevis will be the talk when it comes to entrepreneurship and business development, as well as food security. There are some exciting plans for our food-based entrepreneurs. And I don't want to speak to them too early, but just know that we, as committed, will become the food mecca of the Eastern Caribbean. I stand committed to that. And commitment made, commitment will be kept. So we are leaving no one behind. No one at all. Thank you.
Win FM. Sometime back, the previous government gave a specific number relating to businesses that were established during the pandemic. How many of those businesses are still in operation today, and how are they thriving? And what are the plans to deal with any oversaturation of goods and services within the economy? And how is the government actively promoting diversification of the market?
Thank you again for your question. And if I may, I think the statistics on those businesses that are actually in operation, and as to the status of those businesses, I don't have that data readily on hand. Save and except to say that I think nationally, over the efforts of our years, we have somewhere around 1,200 businesses that are registered. But to break it down as to those registered during the pandemic and how many of those are actively engaged in business operations, I don't have that data readily on hand. And as to your second question, I lost that train of thought. It was the diversification, correct. As far as the diversification, as mentioned, we are an oversaturation, and I want to put them together here in answering this, because the same mechanism for diversification is the same mechanism that deals with oversaturation. We are now speaking with entities throughout the region and throughout the world and getting our products and services exported. Now, St. Kitts is 68 square miles. St. Kitts and Nevis together is some 50 plus thousand residents. But we live in a global space that is somewhat 8 billion now, right? So if you recognize, I see the world as our market. I see the 68 square miles as our headquarters. Our headquarters, but the world is indeed our market. So from our headquarters, I want us to run the markets around the world. And that thinking and idea is what will solve any oversaturation and any form of diversification. Yes.
All right, and if I were to just support the minister on the matter of the statistics, that's a work in progress, because what we can tell you is that a number of the businesses that would have been started at that point would have been in the area of addressing some specific COVID situations. Number of small businesses making masks, number of them getting into transportation, the delivery of items. Number of them would have gotten into manufacturing of the hand sanitizers, etc. And as we would be aware, some of those habits in terms of sanitization and so on are things that we would carry forward. Life as we knew it would have changed somewhat thanks to COVID. And so we know that a number of these businesses, instead of folding, creating and doing new initiatives to enhance the areas that they would have gotten into. In addition, the SBDC, which is now operating within the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, would have recently introduced our monitoring and evaluation program, which speaks to our intimate, consistent engagement of enterprises, of entrepreneurs who would have reached out to us for support, and even those who wouldn't have. Because as the minister would have indicated, the idea is to ensure that we cover all entrepreneurs and their enterprises. The format of the SBDC itself lends to that collaboration. And collaboration meaning regional and international collaboration. So we function within a network. And so we are encouraging and doing all we can to place our entrepreneurs on that network where they can reach out to maybe a like agency, a like business in another part of the world, in Taiwan, in the USA, in the Caribbean region. And so that kind of networking, the alliances that can be formed, of course, is what we would want to see happening over the next few months. It exists to a certain point already, and like our minister indicated, we are in the mode of transformation. And so that is where we're going.
Just a couple more questions. For clarification, because I had someone asking me about COVID relief for small businesses. Is there any existence of any such relief still at this point from the ministry? Secondly, a lot was said about trade and about exporting goods and services. Especially when it comes to goods, we know one of the biggest challenges right now is the intra-regional travel and the cost of shipping. We've had small businesses who've done products that they want to ship abroad, but the cost has been so prohibitive that it makes it difficult for them to do that. Are there any attempts to facilitate, especially amongst our islands, the close islands, the islands close by, to facilitate cheaper, easier trade of goods in particular?
Yes. So to your first question on the COVID relief, I mentioned that in 2 weeks we will have a series of loans being offered to our small businesses. That is part of our COVID relief, and that will also be extended as we go forward. So yes, there's some efforts. There are some efforts being made to offer COVID relief to our small businesses, and we will hear a lot more about that as it is activated. As far as the shipment and the cost, yes, many efforts are being made to not only reduce costs, but again, to expand the markets. And it was just this past weekend, I sat with a delegation out of St. Martin in particular, discussing the idea of St. Kitts being a supplier for St. Martin and the jurisdictions that they serve, because St. Martin as a port is actually one of the busiest ports, serving a number of jurisdictions. and we discussed the idea of how we can partner where St. Kitts becomes a producer. And I say St. Kitts, and I must correct myself, St. Kitts and Nevis become the producer, and we partner with St. Martin. So these discussions are ongoing, but I'm telling you that it is about to be transformational. Believe me.
Okay, someone just sent in a couple of questions. What would be the requirements to be qualified for a loan or grant as a farmer? And how can the Small Business Ministry assist entrepreneurs in tapping into the local supermarkets and hotels?
Yes, so what is required to access the loan as a farmer? Well, first of all, you must be a registered farmer, because we are offering loans to persons who we can be able to support. And if you're not registered, then our monitoring and evaluation system would not be able to work. So you have to be registered with the Department of Agriculture. Once you walk in to access the loan, like I said, then your data will also be, whether you do it at the bank or through the Ministry of Small Business, will be transferred to the Ministry of Small Business, where you will be then recognized and evaluated to be an approved small business. And then once that happens, then the regular process of applying for a loan is activated. And that is partly the bank's process of doing credit checks and so forth, and your ability to service. But initially, it really starts with being a registered farmer and an approved and registered small business. I think I'll turn over to our director to take it further.
Okay, there was a second part of the question, Yui. All right. That in itself, again, would lie as part of the responsibility of our new marketing thrust. As the minister would have indicated, given our reconfiguration, there is much more emphasis placed on marketing. No, marketing not only regionally and internationally, but locally. The production of goods, the delivery of goods, and having them sold on the local market is, of course, maybe first priority. So that is, in fact, one of the major components of our new thrust, the transitioning, etc.
And might I add, while I have the platform, let me use this moment to offer a gem of advice to our persons in agriculture and small businesses. And that advice is something that I learned myself from walking that journey. And it is summed up in one word: consistency. Because if we take the reality of a supermarket in St. Kitts, trying to put, let's say, tomatoes on a shelf, and those tomatoes coming from somewhere in the US. The reality is that supermarket must make a call, then that farmer must deliver them to some transportation, some means of transportation, then to a port in the US, then leave the US to our port, and then from our port to the supermarket, hopefully. And that is shortening that whole transaction route. As opposed to making a call to a farmer in St. Kitts who delivers that to the door of the supermarket. Do you really think that the supermarkets want to go through all that 2-3 weeks of waiting and transport? They really don't. But here's the issue. When you want to go out to your favorite restaurant for your favorite meal, and that is a tomato-based product, you will be disappointed if the supermarket said, we don't have it. The restaurant said, we don't have it. That same restaurant buys from the same supermarket. Now they're disappointed that the supermarket says they don't have it. And therein lies the challenge. Consistency. If you are able to show up at the door of our supermarkets every Tuesday when they pack their shelves, they will run to you much faster than importing. But if you can't do that every Tuesday, then they don't want the disappointment of having to tell our people, we don't have any tomatoes. So the gem of advice, as you plan your farming, take into account the supermarkets stock their shelves every Tuesday. And if you are there, then you're in business. Yes.
Additional questions?
Last question. I know you talked about the one-stop shop and making it easier for small businesses. One of the challenges a lot of small businesses complain about when trying to access credit is the requirements in terms of the paperwork and all the things that they have to submit. What assurances are there that the requirements or the process this time around for small businesses will not be as tedious as is if they went alone by themselves to the banks, whether it be a development bank or a commercial bank?
I'll take the short answer and pass it to my colleagues. You are not alone. We are here with you.
Yes, and so I'll attempt to elaborate a little bit on that. We are aware, and it is traditionally we know that the banking system, the existing financial system, is risk averse and heavily collateral based. And so we are cognizant of the fact that changes ought to be made and we have to be more creative. There are a number of, starting from the application, when you are looking at servicing a small business or farmer, the application which is applied here in terms of the questioning and the procedures, in most times, the banks and the financial systems, one-fit-all system. And so you go through the same rigors, some of it not even applicable to what you're doing. And so our first move in that particular direction would be to ensure that we are relevant. What we are looking for, what we are trying to do in terms of, even in that application process, providing advice at that point. And it is specific to the small business, and we want to ensure that it is more intimate in terms of what they do. Secondly, we are still looking at ways, and that's why the minister would have said we're here, because we are inviting the suggestions, but we are looking at ways in which we can use other methods, other than the hard collateral and telling you to bring your house and bring your car and bring your land and so on. But there are other systems, some of which, things like factoring, and, the farmer would have, he need a 3 months grace period maybe to grow, but then he has funds coming in the next 6 months, etc. So those types of, I don't want to call them creative because they exist, but those types of systems to assist in terms of alleviating the security and collateral problem. We are also as we speak, working with the ECCB, and there's a credit guarantee scheme which would also assist in providing some guarantees for loans, hence ensuring that the banks are a little bit more liberal in providing loans to the high-risk areas, as they would call them. But that's a means of mitigating there so that our entrepreneurs and our people who are not heavily asset-based and so on can, in fact, find ways of plying their trade, getting some financing, and, of course, ultimately helping to develop our economy. So that's the way we would approach that.
So yeah, just based off of what Philip was just saying, we are well on our way to creating that one-stop shop at the ministry. So we are currently collaborating with different ministries, different banks to see where we could offer some services to the entrepreneurs so they don't have to be here and there and everywhere to collect information. We actually facilitate some of that data collection for them, offering them training in different areas so that they'll be better prepared to have some of these information they would need in order to qualify for the loan. So we are aware of a lot of these challenges, and we are putting steps in place to shorten the time period for our entrepreneurs to be qualified for these loans.
Any other questions? Of course, we like us, we don't have all the answers as we sit here, and you may not have all the questions as you sit there. And so what we would want to do, of course, is to invite you to connect with the ministry, or we are on the social media platforms. We can be accessed via telephone, via emails. And I'm not one of those persons who are really good at spitting out the specifics in terms of the platforms and the emails and so on. So what we do, though, is in very short order, be running this kind of information in the on national radio stations, etc., and making sure that persons know how you can engage us. We would be open to the suggestions, and for the immediate future over the next couple of weeks, we can be found at the Nagico building at the Bladen Commercial Development. We are on the ground floor. So anything entrepreneurship based, small business sector based, questions, support you need, training, whatever it is, the Ministry of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, housing the Small Business Development Center, SBDC Sengets, can be found at the Nagico building, ground floor. So we look forward to seeing you and serving you and all of our entrepreneurs. Again, I want to say thank you for the media this morning and for allowing us to at least communicate a small portion of our vision, because there's a lot more as we roll out to the world and to our entrepreneurs, of course. So we wish again to see you shortly, and thank you so much.